This is an ice storm. And over the past weekend, almost the entirety of the Midwest was hit with this ice storm. As you can imagine, this made it almost impossible to fish or walk. So, with that being said, I'm going to give you a little tour of everything I've packed in my tackle box to start off the 2026 bank fishing season and give you all a few little tips and tricks and modifications along the way. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Welcome back to another video, guys, to the Beating the Bank channel. As you can see, it is freezing cold outside. I'm sure most of you over the past weekend have dealt with ice, snow. So, with that being said, I can't fish. Even if I could, I don't know if I could even get a bass to bite, and I am not about to go out there and fall through the ice. I cannot swim. So we're going to be going through my tackle box that I've rigged up so far for the year. Starting off, this is what I'm going to run anytime I go bank fishing. I'm going to throw this in my car with a couple of rods. So right here, yes, I know, Zebco Roam. This is the cheapest bag you can probably get. This is a little sling pack, throw over your shoulder pack, and I think I got this for free for a gift from one of my relatives. So this is probably the cheapest route you can go. I have had book bags, I've had sling packs, and I'm just going to tell you right now, probably for the most part, if you're bank fishing non-competitively, if you're not going on a boat as a co-angler, I do have different applications for that. But if you're just going out for a day on the water, the cheapest pack you can probably get that, holds you some tackle is going to do just fine. So we're going to hop into this and kind of show you all what I'm running for 2026. So I keep a couple of boxes in here, and we're going to start off with just this simple 3600 box. This is a waterproof box, and I've had this box for forever and it's never done me wrong, so why change it? I'm not going to go buy a new one. So, I'm going to start off, it's winter time, and these stay in my box year round. Simple square bills. I've got a little Rapala here, Strike King 1.5, in different colors. You're going to want a bait fish imitator that does not get snagged. But from the bank, a square bill is going to be your best friend. You're not going to get snagged, So these are some that, I usually keep in my box year round. I can fish these in November, January, May. You can throw these, around beds when the bass start spawning, bluegill color, pumpkin seed color. I keep these year round. Little shad, Tennessee shad imitator in the fall. And I usually restock these, yearly, buy me some new ones, throw in here. And like I said, this is not all the tackle I've got. I've got way too much tackle, and that's the problem. Most people pack way too much tackle when they go bank fishing. So from there, the fall, winter time, I've got just a lot of crankbaits in here, basically. I've got a Storm. This one dive a little bit deeper. You all have seen me here recently fish some lakes from the bank that I can, walk basically around this entire lake, big lake, thousands of acres size lake, just because that water's drawn down. So if y'all got any drawdown lakes near you, pack you some medium diving crankbaits. There's a big, wide wobble wiggle wart from Storm, and then when that water gets really frigid, there's your flat-sided Spro, as well as a little flat-sided crankbait that dives a little bit shallower. So when that water does heat up, depending on where you're at, you may have some warmer days where those fish pull up, like where I'm at. In Kentucky, we'll have, like you saw in my first Beating the Bank series. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. But that video, it was 60 degrees, January. And those fish do move up and feed. I've seen guys catch them on top water out there in January. Moving on into the last little tray here. We've got some lipless here, if I can get them untangled. Lipless crankbait. I keep a couple of these in the box. This can be another bait you can throw majority of the time of year. If you've got some grassy ponds that you can rip these through, if you've got some lakes that have some riprap on them, anything like that, this time of year, in the winter and in the spring, these baits work great. And I'll keep a couple of colors of those in here as well. you just want to make sure you keep a couple of bait fish imitators. You know, you've got your bluegill, you've got your shad, and then, you know, you've got your dirty water if need be. So now, jerk bait. This is, you know, this is a bait that's not going to stay in my box year round. I'm not throwing a jerk bait unless I really have to, if I'm being honest with you. Some people like them more than others, but in the winter, it catches fish. You've got to throw it in the box, you know. So this is a 6 cents. I think this is a Provoke. I forget the size, but this is the silent version. I love silent baits sometimes. So I'll keep, you know, some silent baits, especially from the bank. You're going to be dealing with pressured fish. You know, you aren't going to get out there in a brush pile that someone hasn't seen in, you know, 4 years. You know, you're going to have to deal with fish that probably have gotten caught before that are pulling up on the bank. So got to keep that silent Provoke in there at all times. And then I'll keep a, you know, knockoff Megabass 110. This one's got rattles, so, you know, if you got dirty water, this bait might be a little bit better for you. So that's that. And then, if you all have seen my beating the bank video, guys, this blade bait right here has been catching me some big fish. I'm always going to keep a couple in the box in the winter. Well, between the lipless and the blade bait, that's my winter go-to. I always have those tied up, so we're going to keep a couple of those in there. Now, we're going to show you all a little hack that I've came up with. So some of these trays like this have, you know, an option to give you a wider section here to kind of just insert baits. You can insert soft plastics, which I've done before. Kind of just a wider area with no dividers. But what I've done is actually bought EVA foam at Hobby Lobby and turned this into, you know, a box that I can hook baits straight into this foam that I've cut out and inserted into here, and kind of still keep them divided but easily accessible. So, you know, my jigs, swim jigs, chatterbaits, got a hair jig in here right now for the colder water. I'll keep in here like so. So we're just gonna run through these real quick, but you know, I've got a couple of chatterbaits, one for cleaner water, one for dirtier water, basically one with chartreuse and one that doesn't have chartreuse. And then I've got a swim jig. You know, I've got a couple of places that I fish docks from the bank that I can go, you know, flip marinas, throw a jig in there. And I just like to throw a jig in there because there's a bunch of rope, there's metal pieces that you get hung up on. So I like to have that weed guard. I feel like I don't get hung up as much, and that's going to imitate, you know, a crappie, a shad, thread fin, something of that nature. And then wintertime, you've got your jigs. Unpopular opinion, I hate jigs, but they catch fish. They've always caught fish. Since the beginning of time, they've caught bass. So you've got to throw them in your box. So I've, you know, got the black and blue. You know, I've got, you know, a couple football head jigs that, you know, look like a crawdad, a couple of pitching jigs as well. So nothing crazy. And then also, I've got a hair jig. You know, a lot of people overlook this. This is a 6 cents hair jig, probably a little bit too big for the winter, but fish will still bite it in the winter. And I don't really like throwing small marabou. I want to go after, you know, a big bass. So, you know, ripping this off the bottom, letting it sink back down and just sit for a second, kind of like yo-yoing a blade bait in the winter. That retrieve right there has caught me some fish. Little kind of niche bait, but it catches fish and they don't see it as much. So I like to keep one of those in my box. And like I said, just hook it right back in there to the EVA foam and then take it out whenever you want to use it. It's really that simple. So that's kind of my go box for the winter and spring. You know, some of these baits will stay in here for the spring as well. And you know, I will completely change this once, you know, spring kind of sets in and summer starts to set in. So maybe I'll do an update then on, you know, what I throw into this box summertime, fall time. So it's kind of a continuing series. We'll keep going. Okay, moving on from there, we've got terminal tackle. Now I've came up with this off season, and you know, for bank fishing, you don't have to carry around a 3700 series box like I was doing at one point that has every single weight I own, every single hook I own. You can buy a small little box right here and keep it completely organized with EVA foams. So this is a box I've had for who knows how long, smaller box that I can store a lot of terminal tackle in with, you know, not taking up much room at all. So right here you can see I've done an EVA foam lining in the bottom of all of these. And so, you know, I've got every hook I think I will need in a day of bank fishing. I should not go through this entire box in a day unless I'm doing something completely wrong. So we're gonna start off at the top, but you've got some shaky heads from Owner, some Ned rigs and some smaller shaky heads, some jig heads, various jig heads, and then these, you know, you can throw swim baits on them, grubs, anything of the sort. From there, I've got, you know, wide gap EWG hooks all the way from 2 to 4/0, and you know, those are simply put, you can rig almost anything on them if need be. Then I've got some bigger jig heads, some wobble heads. I've got me a underspin in there, which is great for the winter time. Always keep that in there as well. And then, you know, some finesse hooks. But, you know, I've got various finesse hooks right there, wacky rig hooks and Nico rig hooks, stuff like that, drop shot. And then just a simple tray to keep any weights I'll need in a day of fishing. And then on this side, you know, I've got your essentials that you're gonna need: your beads, small little Carolina rig connects right here, your beads in little bags, little wobble head that you can throw on. You know, I've got your bobber stops as well, bobber stops, pegs. So y'all can see that there. Pretty simple stuff, but pretty neat little way I found to rig it and not take up as much room. It's 3700 series box, so that right there is pretty neat. Okay guys, now soft plastics, and this is a little day pack of soft plastics. This is ever changing. I simply put right there, big bag of soft plastics. You know, I'll go through a couple, but you got to keep a crawl bait in there, imitator bait. I think I've got a couple for some trailers. You know, I love the Rage Tail right here, so keep a couple of those in some different colors. Rage Tail on a June bug, purplish color. Also, this time of year, specifically winter, your shaky head, finesse worms, robo worm, you can never go wrong. This color has caught me so many fish. You know, these nice finesse worms like that. They aren't as big as, you know, like what I would throw in the summer. You know, they get up to like 6-7 inches.
You know, it's only like what, 6-7.
I just been right.
But we also got to keep the Ned rig essentials in here. So this is a little pack of XPS Ned rigs. The Z-Mans work good as well. I've got some of those that I'll throw in here, but this is just your natural color. Got some trailers that I'll throw. These have always done good on chatterbaits for me. A lot of action. So throw those on chatterbaits, spinner baits, you know, stuff you'll throw in the winter. Then you've got your juggle minnow. Like I said, guys, I'll throw the minnow from the bank. Then, you know, I've got some more trailers, some stuff I can throw on jig heads if I want to, some swim baits. Right here, you've got to keep in your bag in the winter. You know, this is just a little KVD swim and shiner as well. Another one, this is I think this is a 3.2 inch Divine swim bait. You can throw in an underspin, and I keep a couple of those in here, I believe. Yeah, this is a bigger one, 3.8, in that Pro Shad, just natural iridescent color right there. Works great for me. I've caught some fish on. So then some more trailers, you know, got some blade minnows right here from KVD, a little shad color, shiner color, then just a natural green pumpkin. And like I said, this little bag changes every time I go fishing. I'll cram pack stuff in here, and it's a good way to keep your tackle organized, your soft plastics organized in a little bag like this Zebco Roam. So, but there's a lot of little day pack bags, soft plastic bags that you can pick up for very cheap. So. Okay guys, so you still have room in this little pack for maybe even another box like this. And I just throw some soft plastics in here, some Carolina rig type stuff. And you know, just various stuff goes in here. I might throw my scale in here, stuff like that. So I want to touch on kind of the pockets on the outside real quick just to give you all a full overview. But this is going to hold my leader, you know, for my spinning rods. So this is the cheapest leader I use for bank fishing. 10-pound test. I can basically get away with using that on almost all my spinning rods. You know, I have a very light finesse spinning rod, high end, so I throw a monofilament on it when I throw some light crankbaits, the blade bait, stuff like that. I'll throw on this, get a little bit more stretch so the fish don't sling the hook out, so keep that in there. And then, you know, Carolina rig leader as well. Carolina rig's going to be your best friend as a bank fisherman. You can discover so much with the Carolina rig. So I keep some nice fluorocarbon, abrasion resistant P-line. Love this stuff. I've never broke off on this, I don't think, unless I've gotten terribly snagged. So we keep that in there alongside another hack with the foam that I've found out. So I slide this in here, and some of you all might pick up on what I'm putting down here, but I've basically just super glued some EVA foam, and right here I keep pre-rigged Carolina rigs with 4/0 EWG hooks, so that's pretty neat. And then I cut out some leader lengths right here of my 10-pound fluorocarbon and monofilament as well, 8-pound, and keep those. So I usually keep 10-foot leaders. I feel like it's the best all-around leader length. So, you know, 10-foot of leader is always going to do me good. So that's a pretty neat little hack, and it's going to save you a lot of time. So yeah, that's basically my entire pack right here that I'm going to take out on a day of bank fishing. You know, I didn't go through the tools, but I've got a Sharpie in there, super glue, hook sharpener, some simple stuff like that. And then this pocket, I'm just going to keep miscellaneous stuff, tape measure, some snacks, some stuff like that. But hopefully you all enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully it'll be a fishing video. Stay tuned. So if y'all want to go check out the first video and you also want to see more, I would greatly appreciate if you could subscribe and maybe even leave me a like and a comment on what you want to see in the future. Thanks for watching, guys.